Alright guys, good morning. I am J0k and today I'm gonna talk a little bit about Feria, and at some point during the stream I will also give away a game key to one of the viewers, so if you don't have a key yet, hang around a little bit, or if you have some friends who would really like the game, tell them to get in here. So I'm gonna mostly talk about some of the articles on playferia.com. They wrote a couple of ones, and I'm gonna talk about the ones I think is most interesting. So yeah, the first article that I want to talk about is called "Curve Can't Always Be King," and what it's about is basically that in Feria you get mana each turn, or you get Feria every turn. So unlike games like Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone, you don't really get punished for not using all your mana each turn, because you keep it until next turn. And this makes the whole curve thing way less important. In Magic or in Hearthstone, it's very important to maximize your mana, so that you play spells or minions every turn, because you will be able to reuse that mana next turn. In Feria, that's not the case, which leads to I don't know how to explain this, but it means basically you don't necessarily want to play cards just because you can. It makes a lot of sense to hold on to certain cards if they won't have an immediate impact while you play them. Impact can be many different things. In the early game, it's generally wise to play a creature that can collect Feria for you. That's an impact. There are some other cards that don't really have an immediate impact always. Sometimes they do, and I want to talk about those today. The first card that I wanted to talk about, let's see if I can figure this out, is Explore. Explore is a card that the second player gets, the person in the game who starts the second turn. And it's an event card that when you play it, you create a prairie, a neutral land. And oftentimes you see people play that on their first turn without really it having any impact. So I just want to talk about a few reasons why you should keep them on your hand instead of playing them immediately. Basically, with Explore, it's maybe not too impactful many times, but you don't want to give away what you're doing. You want to make your opponent not really know what you're up to, and the more cards you play, the easier it is for them to respond. I'm just going to take a quick look in the chat. Okay, so yeah, I think I prepared a picture later that one, and I can talk more about Explore. I want to show you a few other cards. Day of the Dragons, awesome card, really fun card. I use it in most of my decks, and it's a 12 cost event, and when you play it you get 4 cards, the dragon cards, and they have reduced cost. Now, say you are on 12 Feria, and this is the only card in your hand. A lot of people would then play it. I'd say you shouldn't. You should wait until you have enough mana to play the card and a dragon at the same turn. Otherwise, the opponent player will know that you have dragons. They will know what your options will be for the following turn, and by keeping your mana they will also, you kind of threaten them because they don't really know what's going on. And it could also be that next turn you draw something else that you would rather play than your dragons. So it's way better to hold on to it. Second card is a neutral card. It's a shimmering statue. I don't think you see a lot of play from it, but this is also a card that just because you have the farrier required to play it, you shouldn't play it until it has immediate impact. You can try to defend your orb, or you can try to defend one of your minions. Yeah, so the third card, Aurora's Creation. Add a copy of a creature to your hand and it would cost 5 less. This is a very fun card, and say you have 5 Faria, you shouldn't use this card unless the card you're taking over if you would be able to play it for free. Why? Because the longer you hold on to this card, you have a bigger chance of maybe finding different targets for the card. But more importantly, there's simply no reason for you to make a copy of a card if you're not going to play that card the same turn. Then you might as well hold on to Aurora's Creation until the turn when you will be able to play it and also play the creature that you made a copy of. Windfall is a card that I see people try to play as soon as they get 10 Faria. That's also not really smart. Maybe there's probably a lot of different scenarios where this is not really true. Oh, hold on a second, I can't see the chat. So the thing with Windfall is when you play it, it costs 10 Faria, and when you play it you get 13 Faria. So you should only play it if you're gonna also use this 13 Faria. You shouldn't play it just because. It's better to keep a card in your hand to threaten the opponent that you have something that they might like, that you have some answers to whatever they play. If you have 0 cards in your hand but you have 20 Faria, it doesn't really help you at all, and it doesn't threaten the enemy either. Last Nightmare. It's a card that obviously you want to use it to destroy big minions, but let's say he has a really big minion in the middle of the board. It will not be in reach of collecting Faria. It will not be in reach of dealing any damage to you. Then it's probably wise not to destroy that creature that turn. You should wait until it really has an impact, and there might come up other ways that you can deal with this minion, or maybe there's some even bigger threat that you have to deal with. And yeah, of course there are situations when the opponent maybe teleports a creature, or they can do something. They give a creature charge or jump so it can reach you. You have to keep those things in mind. So I'm not saying it's always best to leave the big minion be. Sometimes you have to remove it if you anticipate that the opponent has some combat tricks. But if they are on 0 cards in hand, the chance that they will be able to do something like that is quite low. Cabal Barracks is a structure, and adjacent creature has +2 attack. This is also a structure that you shouldn't just play it because you can. You should play it strategically in a time when you will get like when you need this buff. Sometimes it's important to play it defensively if you're expecting the opponent to maybe play some haste creature or something like that. Like that you want to make your minion stronger to defend on your opponent's turn. But if you're using it aggressively, you should usually only use it when it actually makes a direct impact. Okay, so Blood Obelisk. Whenever an enemy creature dies, gain 2 Faria. This is a very powerful card. I enjoy it a lot. And this is a structure that you can. I mean, there are some different kinds of structures. Some structures have summoning sickness, or what you want to call it. You can't activate their ability, but this structure has a passive ability that whenever an enemy creature dies, you gain 2 Faria. That means you shouldn't. Let's say you have a removal spell in your hand. You have Last Nightmare and you have Blood Obelisk. You could play Blood Obelisk and then next turn you play Last Nightmare to gain some Faria. That's really awesome and that will feel really good. But I'd say it makes a lot more sense if you just keep both of the cards in your hand until you can play them both at the same time. Otherwise your opponent might be able to remove your Blood Obelisk, or you're revealing more cards than necessary because if you're not going to get any value out of this card, it doesn't make any sense to play it. There are times when it can make sense to play it if the opponent kills its own units to trigger last word effects, or if you have a few taunt guys out and you think they might die because the opponent buffed their minions or something like that. Structure is the same as creature but without attack. No, structure is it's like a building you place on the board. You cannot move it, you cannot attack with it. It just has health and the opponent can destroy it if they get close to it. Bloodsinger. Whenever an enemy creature dies, deal 2 damage to your opponent. This is a very popular card in the current meta, and I know that the devs are taking a look at it at the moment and considering changing it. We'll see. Probably nothing will happen this week or anything. We need to give the players a chance to learn to play around certain cards, but there might be a change coming to this card. Anyway, this card is in certain decks the main damage dealer, and if you're not gonna get any value, like if you're not gonna kill any minion the same turn you play this, you probably shouldn't play this unless you can play it as a collector to gain more Faria and you don't think the opponent can remove it. Yeah, so I mean it's difficult with creatures because you always want to have creature, or most of the time you want to have something to gather Faria. So it's a bit more tricky than the events and the structures. Next card, Elderwood Embrace. It's an event card that gives your creature +2 attack and +4 life. It's a pretty powerful buff, but just because you can, should you use it? Not necessarily. Sure, you can use it if you think that the opponent will play a similar combo trick to kill your minions. But otherwise, I would recommend you to play it mostly if it will give you a clear advantage on the board, like that you can remove